Jeffrey's gonna show up in like the most pimped out like outfit and like armor and like weapons, and then Vega just throws a rock at him and kills him.
The one is for throwing, one is for just like
For
I'm
bashing.
getting
Okay.
close combat. Like it's sword coming at me versus rock. That their sword shatters. My rock stands firm. I'm winning this.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Dodge this.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Holy Moment Podcast, a podcast where we watch films with you and then discuss the moments that work, the moments that don't, and the moments that reflect truth in unexpected ways. I am once again your host this week because my movie, Gladiator, was pulled out of the hat, and I'm joined by my amazing co-hosts. We'll start with Vega this time.
Hi, my name is Christopher Vega. This was an interesting watch, I will have to say. Can't wait to see where we go and talking about it. And we are also here with our fellow other co-host.
Woo!
Jeffrey Nichols. Hey, how's it going, guys? Actor, voice actor, audiobook narrator. I have things to say about this film, and I'm excited to pick the brains of my co-hosts here.
And before we get into the brains of your co-hosts, I have a question for you, Jeffrey. Is it comfortable having your entire wardrobe like sitting on top of your head? Because like anytime you move, your shirts and sweaters and pants kind of shift back and forth with you like it's a really, really big hat. And it's pretty funny. For those of you who only listen to us on Spotify, you can check us out on YouTube where you can see the visuals of Jeffrey in his closet, which is not a metaphor for anything.
You know, it's not the most comfortable setup, and it's a whole ordeal to get in and out of this space. Hopefully things change. I want to invest in maybe a smaller table.
Guys, please subscribe and send help. We'll set up a Patreon. Jeffrey needs to afford a small table.
Exactly. Yes, please. Please send me money. Send me all the money you have to buy a really high quality small table.
I'm just imagining Jeffrey like at an antique store looking at like, not antique, that's too expensive, like at a Goodwill, and sees like this worn down table for like $10. He's like, I can't, won't be able to feed the family if I get this table.
It's a bank breaker.
You can't have the table and have the food to put on it.
You can only have one. You either eat off the ground or you have a beautiful table, but you don't eat. Speaking of not eating, slaves. And that is a transition into this movie. This week, guys, we watched The Gladiator, directed by Ridley Scott. Was my personal pick for Wildcard. So Wildcard for the category when we choose the movies is just that. You can pick any movie you want, whether you've seen it, haven't seen it. And I personally want to stick with movies I haven't seen, but I really wanted to pick something I think I would like. Some of the movies on my list for pulling out of the hat, I actually don't think I'm going to like. I just want to, I'm curious what they're going to be like. But for Wild Pick, I was like, okay, I want to enjoy this movie, even if I haven't seen it. And I felt like Gladiator fit into the realm of movies that I personally enjoy. A little bit of background on the movie. It was released on May 5th, 2000. As I previously said, it was directed by Ridley Scott. The studios behind it were DreamWorks Pictures, Universal Pictures, and also Scott Ridley's production company with his brother, Scott Free Productions. I feel like you guys all know kind of the movies that Ridley Scott does: Alien, Blade Runner, The Martian, Napoleon, House of Gucci. The budget for this movie was $103 million, which honestly, that's impressive for the scope of this movie being kind of like an epic, which we don't really get those types of movies nowadays. Honestly, like maybe kind of James Bond-esque or epic slightly with the amount they travel around, but like you don't have those like classic huge sets, especially set in ancient days, traveling all around the world, or at least a section of the world. So for $103 million, that's impressive. The box office, it made $465 million, so it did a pretty good job on returns. Our cast: Russell Crowe played Maximus, Joaquin Phoenix was Commodus, Connie Nielsen played Lucia, and Jamin Hansu played Jubba. Spencer Treat Clark played Lucius Varius, and last but not least, Richard Harris played Marcus Aquarius. Really, really good cast. I feel like also for being an epic and having so many characters and so many like cast members, they did a really good job casting everyone, and that was definitely a highlight of the film for me. Jeffrey, who do you think was favorite role? No, what's it called?
Character?
Actor?
Not actor, but performance. Okay.
Oh, favorite performance. Okay, that's an easy one for me, actually. So this movie was nominated for Best Actor as well as Best Supporting Actor. And it won Best Actor for Russell Crowe's performance. I wish that it had also won Best Supporting Actor for Joaquin Phoenix because he stole the show, in my opinion. He did such a good job of making this villain feel real, but also incredibly unsettling, incredibly creepy, right? You could understand the psychology of this character and why he was the way that he was, and it just made my skin crawl.
When I was watching the scene of him in the bedroom with his sister, and he was like laying in the bed with her and like slowly putting his finger in her mouth, I really was like, yeah, Jeffrey's going to relate to this character so much. Kidding. But no, I'm happy that you said that. I completely agree. I really liked Russell Crowe's character, and I think he did exactly what the character needed to be. But Joaquin Phoenix, I think, had the best performance by far in the movie. Also, probably the most interesting character in the movie. But also, the movie won a ton of awards. I wrote in my little category for like notes, I just said won so many, just like all of them. I think it was 105 in total. Not all at the Oscars, obviously, just in total. But at the Oscars, it won Best Picture, Best Actor and Lead Role, Best Costume Design, Best Sound, and Best Visuals and Visual Effects. And it was nominated for like 10 others. Russell Crowe went on a statement saying like, hey, I'm really happy that I won Best Actor in a Leading Role. However, ultimately, I wish that Ridley Scott had gotten Best Director over me getting Best Actor because Ridley Scott was nominated for Best Director, but he did not get it. Vega, what was your favorite performance?
I guess decently easy to pick between like two, I think, the objective best performances out of the movie. I think Russell, when he is with his family in the movie, or Russell's character, Maximus.
It's funny, when you just refer to him as Russell and not Russell Crowe, I just think of Russell from Up. But yeah, that scene with his family coming home was very unsettling. And yeah, he did. That was a great performance by him. I want to start us off with a quick question, a very important question. If you guys were kidnapped from your homes tonight, blindfolded, whisked away, and then you woke up somewhere in the Middle East in a Colosseum, and you're in that little like dungeon area waiting room, and before you lays a table of every weapon known to mankind when guns were invented. So whenever guns and cannons were invented, it's pre that. What weapon would you guys grab for the Gladiator ring, and why?
Only when pre-guns are invented?
You cannot pick up an AK-47 and go fight someone with a spear, but you can pick up a slingshot.
In this theoretical, like, am I acquainted with any of these weapons?
You are acquainted with the weapons as much as you are acquainted with the weapons currently.
All right. I think for the hell of it, I would go slingshot.
Slingshot? I feel like I would go bow and arrow before slingshot.
David and Goliath, dog.
Bro, a slingshot would have to have so... Wait. Also, are you talking about the slingshot like... I don't know what kind of slingshot David and Goliath used, but like, isn't it like usually depicted? It's more like a cloth with a rock in it and he swings it and then lets go. Because that's very different than a slingshot with like a bracket and you pull back. Because that's manageable. But if you're talking like loincloth.
Yeah, I'm talking about like rock with a loincloth.
Oh my God. You're dying. Okay. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, you guys are facing each other. All right, Jeffrey, what weapon do you pick?
Okay, so I would not choose a ranged weapon because that means I would be relying on all the other combatants to be on the other side of the Colosseum, right? But the moment they see me without like a melee weapon, they're running towards me. I have to have something that I can defend myself with in close quarters.
A rock?
Okay, this is an interesting one. Can I pick two weapons or just one?
Just one, unless they're specifically dual wielded, like Raphael from Ninja Turtles with his like dual scythes. Then it can be two.
Okay, could I dual wield, say, a spear or a trident and just a regular one-handed sword, a gladius?
No, but you can dual wield a spear and a shield if you want. Vega, you can have a shield too, or a helmet.
Wait, I raise you this. What if I could just have two big rocks? Is that an option?
It's not a rock. It's a boulder. Yes, you can in fact have two big rocks. How are you lifting these rocks? Or are you just getting on the rock and hiding?
You've been on like a film set with me. I could hold those sandbags. Like they're not.
This is true.
Yeah.
Jeffrey's gonna show up in like the most pimped out like outfit and like armor and like weapons, and then Vega just throws a rock at him and kills him.
One is for throwing, one is for just like I'm
Okay.
getting close combat. Like it's sword coming at me versus rock.
Yeah.
Their sword shatters. My rock stands firm.
You know the
I'm
classic
winning
game,
this.
rock, rock, sword, scissors. Rock always beats sword. Everyone knows
course,
this.
yeah.
Okay, so you and I are having opposite approaches to this because I want to create as much distance from myself and the enemy as I can. Hence the trident, hence the spear. And then when they get close, I have the shield to protect my body, right? And that also protects me from ranged weapons.
I think on a fundamental level, I agree with Jeffrey. On a practical level, I give the dub to Vega. Vega, you go on to fight in the Colosseum.
How is that more practical?
Shh, it's too late. It's too late. You're dead, Jeffrey. You're a corpse. No talking.
Via it's rock shaped hole.
You just got caned or abled, depending. I guess you got caned and Vega abled you. Moving on.
Well, what you didn't answer the question.
Oh, you guys didn't ask me the question.
Are you the emperor?
Yeah, I'm the guy that either goes thumbs up or thumbs down. No, and in all seriousness, on a practical level, like if I really was put in this position, I think I would go with also spear because I agree with Jeffrey. Since I don't know how to wield, if I was proficient in any way in long range weapons, then I probably would pick that. But I'm not, so I'm gonna try and shoot an arrow, maybe hit one person, and then they're gonna be on top of me. I like the spear because it gives you some type of like close range ability, but also you can keep them back a little bit. So I would either go with spear or sword, just because I feel like sword is going to be easier to handle with zero skill than a spear. Again, I could be so wrong. I've never really handled either, but I just feel like a sword just feels like the most natural extension of your body, but spear has the greater mobility and length. But again, I can imagine a spear with zero skill being a little hard to wield efficiently.
I also think that psychologically, I could handle stabbing a guy with a spear better than I could handle me like slicing a guy's arm in half. Or
That's
off.
going at the top of the podcast right there. Clipping that.
No, but I hear you this. I raise you this. Beating them to death with a rock. 2 rocks.
I hear. You're just an innovator. You know, you started with 1 rock and now you have 2. I raise you this, Vega. What if I give you a 3rd rock? What would you do with it?
If I had a 3rd rock,
What's he gonna do? Hold it between his ass cheeks?
Have you not seen One Piece? He'll be like Zoro. He'll put it in his mouth.
that is I either I hold one and then I just like. Have you guys ever seen like the fushigi balls?
Yes, I forgot about those.
That's like I like rotate that around my like. If for the audio listeners, my left hand is just like there's 2 small fushigi like balls just like rolling around, but they're rocks and they're huge.
My man just became like Toph from Avatar. He's now bending the elements. Dude, if someone came out Fushigi ball a boulder, I would run. I'd surrender. That's insane. That is intimidating right there.
Like not only just that, I'm just standing there like that. I'm running at you.
Yeah. Also, this like version, I feel like it works better if you're like bald, almost like dressed as a monk, like someone that you don't want to mess with. But when like crap hits the floor, this monk, and it's your crap hitting the floor because this monk is about to smash you in the head with a Fashishi boulder.
This is moving away from the territory of Gladiator, Roman Colosseum, and into the realm of shonen anime.
I mean, I don't know why they can't be one and the same. I'd like to suggest that Gladiator would have been better if it was a Japanese anime.
I think I would have interacted more with the piece as a Japanese anime versus a 2.5-hour movie.
I mean, I will not lie. Obviously, there's not like a 1-for-1 comparison, but watching the Gladiator, I cannot help but think about Vinland Saga. I don't know if you guys have seen Vinland Saga. I'm gonna get on my soapbox for 2 seconds. The best gosh dang show out there. Please go watch it. Freaking amazing. A lot of like the iconic shot of the Gladiator opening up with Maximus walking through the field, touching with his hand the wheat shot directly. Well, not directly from Vinland Saga, but the opposite. Vinland Saga took that from the Gladiator. Not took in a bad way, but it was inspired.
You know what it made me think of?
What?
That scene from the Goofy movie where Max is in the field of grain and then he sees Roxanne,
We are not built the same. This is the difference between Jeffrey and I. I think of badass Thors. Jeffrey thinks of the Goofy movie.
On another animated note, about both of what you guys are saying, it reminds me of what's the Prince of Egypt? Is it Prince of Egypt? I might be mixing up movies. Is Prince of Egypt the movie where at some point in the movie, like forgive me, however many years of private Christian schooling, and then going to a Christian college for that asterisk? Which is the movie there? Which is the story where like the main character is like hated by his brothers?
Oh, that's Joseph and the coat of many colors. I believe it's Joseph.
Yeah, because Joseph's dream, and then he sold over to Egypt, and that's what starts the whole descendants of Jews living in.
Yeah.
I almost said Mexico and Egypt. Oh my gosh.
Okay, that. Like, do you guys remember in that? Did you guys ever watch that movie as a younger person?
When I was younger, I watched it. Yeah.
It's similar imagery to what Jeffrey was saying with the field and Roxanne.
Yeah, I definitely could see that closer than the Goofy movie. But anyways, when to put us on track of the Gladiator, normally the host would open up with a synopsis of the movie. I want to do something a little different today. Jeffrey, I want you to give your worst synopsis of this movie, the most inaccurate synopsis of this movie.
All right. The worst, most inaccurate synopsis of this movie. So there's this little redhead orphan girl named Annie, and she wants to be adopted, right? And she ends up being adopted by this really rich bald guy, right? And at first he's a bit of a curmudgeon, but they grow closer together and they sing songs together, and I forget how the movie ends.
This is in fact very inaccurate. Okay, Vega, how would you inaccurately describe this movie?
Like a bunch of stuff happens and it's kind of really blue for a minute, and then we just like some guy is just like in a giant cup. It's made out of rock, and he does not choose to fight with a rock, and then he dies.
That is the takeaway. If you don't choose to fight with a rock, you're going to die in life.
Oh, and it's 2.5 hours. Well, I guess that would be that is the one correct piece of information.
You don't understand how much I love you calling the Colosseum a cup. That brings me so much joy.
If it's a cup, does that make the blood of the people the liquid in the cup?
Yeah, but pulling into that religious imagery, wine.
Here's the thing about the Colosseum.
Nice.
Is they would occasionally fill it with water and have naval battles in it.
That's sick.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, here is a more boring but more accurate synopsis for those who have not seen the movie and want to understand what we're talking about. Gladiator is an epic action drama starring Russell Crowe as Maximus. He is a betrayed Roman general turned gladiator. After the corrupt emperor Commodus kills his father and seizes power, then murders Maximus's family, Maximus is forced to fight his way through a brutal arenas all throughout Rome to seek revenge. And let's find out if he gets his revenge. All right, guys, what is your just first impression takeaway of this movie? Like, if I asked you, did you like it? Go, Jeffrey.
I was very entertained by it. I thought that the sets and the visuals were very effective. They stick with me. It's like when they're walking through that alleyway and a bunch of red liquid. I'm still not sure if that's dye or if it's actually blood was being poured on them. And also, at the end when they're leaving the Colosseum with Russell Crowe's body, leaving the Emperor behind. I'll talk about that more later. Really wonderful use of image in this movie. I also just thought it was a really fun, classic revenge story, a fun action romp to follow. So that's my initial impressions.
Yeah, on that note, I agree with you. I think I was in and out during the movie. Overall, really liked it. There were certain moments where I was afraid it was going to become really tropey and not really. I don't need every movie to do something new and incredible. That's not what I need. But I need movies to do what they do well. And I was afraid in certain moments they weren't going to do what they were doing well. Specifically with the revenge story, I was like, oh, okay, we kind of set up hastily, in my opinion, this revenge story. Is it going to be super generic? But it ended up being amazing because it wasn't your classic John Wick, bad guy, bad people, good person, go. There was a lot more subtext, a lot more writing on the stakes of Maximus's decisions than just, dude killed my family, now I kill him. A whole, honestly, empire weighed on this man's shoulders. And for that like reason of the subtext of his decisions made this action movie so much more than just oh, now I fight you, and now I fight you, and oh, I got my revenge. But what about you, Vega? I know you don't share me and Jeffrey's accolades of the movie.
Like, genuinely, I think I just have at some point to give this movie a second chance, or a third one, or I watch several video essays and then I finally kind of get what it's getting at. But initially, I just don't know if I do not know if the version of me that watched this movie was the particular, like, the audience that it needs to, like, enjoy it. I don't know if I particularly did. Like, it does, I think, all of the things well. It looks beautiful. I think the performances are great. From a technical perspective, I don't think I find much of a problem with it. Like, there's a few minor things here and there, but generally, no. Like, I think it's great, but it just doesn't. I don't know if it works for me, and I'm not entirely sure like what I'm not under what didn't vibe with me.
I want to dig into that for a sec. I definitely get walking away from a movie and like not being able to put my finger on the pulse of why I did or didn't like it. But my question for you is there a movie that falls into the same camp / realm of Gladiator that you can point to and say, hey, I do like this? Or do you think you're going to lean more towards like, it's not even necessarily that they didn't do certain things right that made me not like it. I just don't like this type of story. So it doesn't matter how well you do it. I'm not going to like it. So yeah, is there any story / film out there that you're like, hey, it's not one for one, but it's close, and I do like this?
Like something that's longer and does kind of do similar things. I don't know if I have a 1-to-1 for this one, but like I feared that the next thing I might say might be like opening up a can of worms, but whatever.
Oh, I like worms.
Dune 2?
Oh, unfortunately, I have not seen Dune 2, so
Dang.
no worms will be opened here.
All right, Jeffrey, you seeing it?
I have not, but I think it's very funny that you use the image of a can of worms, considering like,
Oh, the big worm.
yeah.
Beetlejuice.
Well, what, did you like? Not to get too sidetracked. Are you saying? So you're saying you did like Dune 2?
I did like how they did. Like it's a bit of a longer story. It does like some similar things visually speaking. I don't know. Like I don't know.
You know what this movie did well that actually I don't like about other movies that I kind of forgot? This is just a really specific thing to me. I do not like when movies will take place, whether it's a whole movie or a scene, in either a really, really snowy area or a really desert area. And I'm not saying it can't be done well, but the example I always come back to is the third act in Inception, when they are in the third level of the dream space and they're on that like snowy mountain base and you feel like you're in like some type of like Call of Duty game. It's just like anytime you put our characters in like a washout of one color, I feel like it loses so much of the visuals. But I feel like with the Gladiator, even though they're in a very Mideastern yellow sand type area, the visual still really worked for me. And I think because they did a good job intersplicing striking colors with the look of like the yellow sand that is often just boring looking.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think that the colors were decently saturated too. That way, those few bits of diverging color really do pop against the yellow.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I feel like Dune 2, again, not having seen the movie, it feels like a good comparison to draw as far as like the length, as far as like it kind of being a modern epic compared to, the epics back in like the original film days. But so I unfortunately just haven't seen it.
You know what was kind of refreshing for me?
What's that?
So watching this movie made me realize how I rate different kinds of movies. And I realize I give more grace to the artsy films, even if I don't particularly enjoy them, because there's more room to question whether or not this was a flaw or if this was a purposeful decision on the part of the director, or there's just more ambiguity. And so I err on the side of grace. Like, I mean, yeah, I think that they're doing something really creative here. Whereas when it comes to this classically told story, that follows the hero's journey, there's a call to action, and then he refuses the call, but then he takes up the mantle. And it's easier to find points that I don't like and unambiguously say, yeah, that didn't work for me. And that was really refreshing. Like, for example, I don't think that Lucilla and Maximus needed to kiss. I don't think it added anything to, especially following the scene of Commodus trying to kiss his sister. I don't know. If I were her, I'd be like, I don't want to kiss. I don't want to even touch another person for the next few days.
I'm so happy you brought that point up because that was one of the big issues I have with the movie. Not big enough to like write home and be angry. And obviously, I feel like you kind of know, like, I don't know about for you guys. I knew Maximus's fate going into the movie. So the fact that I knew he was going to die, spoiler, it made it a little more okay. It made it like, okay, he's going to die. He's not going to have a long life with this woman. But ultimately, it definitely undercut his love for his family. Like, they did a great job with a man who lost everything, the brutality of how his wife and kid were murdered, how he found them, the visuals and everything. And then I will say, it's obvious the movie took place over a decent chunk of time. It wasn't like the scene where we see him find his family and then a week later. I think viewers can sometimes feel that way because it's only a 2 hour long movie, 2.5 long movie. But ultimately, it probably was at least half a year, and we know that because they make a comment. They're doing when Commodus takes over as emperor. He's like, I'm gonna have like 160 days of games. And they say in the movie, like, hey, we're on day 110 of the Emperor's 160 days of games. All I'm saying is there was somewhat of a time skip between his wife and kid dying and him kissing. However, I ultimately did think he did not need to kiss her. And the kiss did undercut a little bit of like, I love my wife and kid so much. And now I am depressed. Ooh, another woman. However, interesting fact, both Ridley Scott and Russell Crowe were against it. They both said, hey, we think this, for that exact reason. Like, hey, we think this undercuts the story of Maximus. He loves his family. He would not kiss another woman. But I think it was ultimately, which kind of sucks, and it's kind of true about the film industry, the people that are putting money into it and they want to see the returns, and they're like, hey, we don't really care if this is true to the story or if this is a better for acting, better for the story or whatnot. Audiences want some type of romance. So we have to put it in there. So it definitely did feel like a bit of string, like shoving romance into an area that didn't need to have it.
That's so interesting. I did not know that about the behind the scenes conflict there. Now, I'm not opposed to there being sexual tension. I think that that can be present, but like he still ultimately chooses, hey, my family died fairly recently. That's who I'm devoted to. I think that ultimately would have made for a stronger film. And it's funny, I was watching this with my girlfriend, or at least she caught the last half of it. And we were watching that scene. And, of course, it feels like they're going to kiss. And she's like, are they going to kiss? I'm like, well, they've done a really good job of creating that sexual tension there. I don't think that they're going to, they're kissing. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they're kissing in this scene.
Yeah, I 100%. I also like that they're like, I'm fine with some tension. And I was so happy because 99% of the movie, they did nothing. I really like when she came to him in the cell and she's like, I need your help. My brother's crazy. And he basically just looked her in the eyes and said, F off. I was like, yeah, that's what you would do in that position where you think, hey, you are rubbing shoulders with the person that conspired and killed my family. And so I just was so happy that they didn't do any type of like romance between them. So I really didn't think they were going to like pull the trigger at the end. But then when they kissed at the end, I was a little like, no, it could have been so much more impactful if like they were just like, there's a respect like that maybe translates to sexual tension. But if anything more, there's like a respect for like, hey, you are a woman that now has to like kind of, you've had to carry so much of this empire on your back in the background and you're doing an impressive job. And then she respects him as a warrior. I feel like that would have been a better place to leave it than, we now have to kiss.
Yeah.
But wrapping back around to your original comment that led to this. Yeah, I don't know. Vega, you're someone that enjoys more of like the indie films and artsy films. Not to say that you don't like those types of films, but I think you do more than at least me and the general audience. Do you think you give more grace to movies that are specifically trying to do something, even if they fail, versus movies that are playing it safe?
I think it's a mix. I think it's like I don't think there's like a one all be all answer for that kind of thing, but I do. I don't know if I would give it more grace necessarily, as much as like I would commend any storyteller to try to embark on their own, like trying to do something different-ishness of like, or trying to like approach one thing in a way that it may not commonly be, like say like a really dramatically shot or whatever, like rom-com, and it like just like I don't know, like something trying to do some things that are I guess in by no means like completely original, because I don't know if there is a completely original thing, but just doing something different. I do enjoy that. I don't know if I would give more grace to it if it just like it does that, but it just doesn't work. Versus, but like generally speaking, I do like any film that either tells like it either has to do its initial thing well. Like I don't know if I particularly love the idea of just like I guess to one extent, like I like the idea of anyone being able to make whatever art that they want to make. That premise, sure. Is I don't know. I might just have to think more on that, but I don't know if it's the most valuable thing to put into the world. If it's just like, oh yeah, like if everyone for this next sake of cinema for until there are no more movies made ever again, it just make kind of like the same kind of movie over and over and over, and don't try to offer anything new, and then we just stop doing it, kind of thing. Like I don't know if that's what I would necessarily advocate for over just not doing anything at all, or doing something that is trying to tell a story in a different way, if that tracks.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what about for you, Jeffrey? Are you saying you recognize this about yourself and you don't think it's a good trait, or are you just simply saying, oh, I didn't realize this is how I interact with movies and I'm fine with it?
I would say I want to challenge myself to be more critical of those artsy films and trust my gut more. Well, I don't know, because I think it's a good thing to try to find the best in each piece of media, and like to give it the benefit of the doubt. And I think that allows you to engage with the media in a more rich way, because you're not just assuming, oh, this has no value. This does not have merit. Like some of the films that we have reviewed prior to this moment, prior to us officially releasing episodes, like the Deer Hunter, for example. I really enjoyed that. As far as entertainment goes, I was entertained more by the Gladiator.
No, I know exactly what you mean, because it's something I wanted to talk about, and it will be when we get to the ranking. I'm really torn on what I want to do, because I think our first episode was Grave of the Fireflies. I think Grave of the Fireflies is is a better movie on a technical level, but I enjoyed Gladiator way more. And then it's the question of like, what do you value? Do we value entertainment? Do we value filmmaking on a technical level? I assume there's an equilibrium and there's a happy middle where technicality and good storytelling meets entertainment. And those are my personal favorite type of movies. My favorite types of movies are really entertaining movies that meet really well done, like cinematography, acting, and story. And obviously, you're going to argue if you don't have those things, if you don't have bad cinematography, bad acting, bad story, you're not going to have something that's entertaining. So they do go hand in hand, but you definitely can write something that's relatively entertaining and has not bad cinematography, but boring cinematography. Not bad acting, but very standard acting. Not a bad script, but like a standard script. So I guess it is good to know, like when you watch movies, and that's one of the reasons I'm excited to do the podcast, is because I'm not very good at verbalizing and critiquing what I do and don't like about movies. It's just a gut reaction to me. Oh, watch the movie, 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 4 out of 10. But I want to do a better job of verbalizing why and why I don't. And it's interesting trying to balance that. Well, this was really well done, but ultimately I didn't actually enjoy my experience. And dang, this was so like it was hot garbage, so much fun to watch, and trying to like find the middle ground with that. And I don't want to use the word ethically, because but like how can you justify ranking certain things over other certain things compared when you're comparing entertainment and quality?
Well, I think that just might go into like a larger thing of not to go too deeply into this, just like touching the water, just risking on it, of like how right now just generally a lot of people interact with like art, like the idea, like the axes of like some perceived notion of entertainment versus like what was trying to be done here. Like people, I've seen this trend on like TikTok or Instagram kind of thing, of people standing in front of quote, like standing in front of art that they thought they think they could have done, kind of thing, as far as when it comes to like modern art. And like to some degree, I do understand why like what the sentiment of that kind of thing is. Whereas like say if it's just, there's one piece where it's a completely blue canvas, and then people are very quick to be very detrimental of that kind of art over, I forgot the name of the artist, but the painting, which is like a day in the park kind of thing, of like maybe the day in the park might be more visually entertaining, but like there is not to say that there isn't any value in more. I know risque is the thing, but like different things that are made that are just maybe made with a different mindset entirely. Like I don't think some art that is made is even like entertainment is even considered. Should it be considered because it's through the or through the medium of film? Sure, but
I know some of these pieces of modern art that seem so simple to us. It's less about representing some like form of reality and more about the quality of the brushstroke. I forget what specific painting I'm thinking of, but there's one. It's just like several blocks of color and lines. But the impressive part of it is that you can't see a single brushstroke. It seems like just a flat surface of color, and that's really technically difficult to achieve in that medium.
yeah, that's, I mean, circling back to like the blue painting thing, the apparently the somewhere within the last 50 years, I think the artist who made it, like it's not like, oh, it's just like some people might just say like, oh, it's just like a blue painting, whatever, but the technical pigment of like paint that they used didn't exist before he painted it. He helped make that specific color that did not exist as a paint, specifically because he like, I don't know, I think he had some sort of desire to want to demonstrate it. I don't know why. I would have to look more into it. And then he made it being something that didn't exist as something that was achievable to now this paint exists, and it looks beautiful. I think that there's some sort of level of beauty in like doing something that was not done before.
That's a great segue into our segment, our kind of our main segment here on the podcast, called aptly The Holy Moment. And the reason why is we here at The Holy Moment really want to review films with a positive outlook. Sometimes there's going to be negative things to say, obviously, but we want to find the holy moment in each and every film. Just how, that painting that's just like on a technical level, impressive brushstrokes, or on the painting Vega was talking about, which created a new color. A lot of people are going to look at it and say, who gives a rip? We're not trying to come and be all high artsy and fartsy, but we are trying to say films are hard to make. Every film has an impressive aspect to it, even if the rest is garbage. So the Holy Moment segment really gives us a chance to dive into what was our favorite aspect of the film. What part of the film really impressed us as filmmakers and as human beings that love stories? So before we go into the segment, in your own words, Vega, what to you is the holy moment?
I think there is something so, I'm not sure if the word precious is great, but something so unique and different and like perhaps like beautiful, and being able to, and generally in any form of art, capture something so authentically or like honestly in a way that is able to be well, I guess whether it's able to be understood or not, or like be able to be easily be picked up on or not, just something that like if you are able to, whether it's in a painting or whether it's in film or whether it's in a photography or whatever, that there is something so I guess in general, like in a general sense, authentic or like truthful or honest or like that kind of demonstrative, but it's in a more smaller umbrella way, like human. Like it feels for lack of a more headspacey word, real, and but in a beautiful way. That I think there is something so precious about being able to make any kind of art that is able to like capture like some sort of something about something that is so it rings authentic, it rings true, it rings honest, and it could exist in different forms of media. It doesn't necessarily have to exclusively be drama or like some more headspacey, I don't know, philosophical film, but like it doesn't necessarily have to be a film like if anyone out there has seen like a ghost story, it doesn't have to be something like that quite as much as just if there is some level of like perhaps humanity in something that is able to be like really like it's shown in a, like a this is the flavor way, perhaps that might be something that I think is very quote unquote like a holy thing that is able to be captured. I do not know if that necessarily particularly aligns with Andre Bazin's original, not original, but original asterisk definition of it.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, like it reflects humanity. I think is a really good way of, for you personally, like, you know, learning more about you and what kind of movies you like. I think reflecting humanity is a good way of saying what your holy moment is. But yeah, well, let's dive into our personal holy moments for Gladiator. I'm going to start with Jeffrey. What was the holy moment for you in this movie, Jeffrey?
Yeah, I think that for me, a holy moment doesn't have to be a positive moment. It can be a sobering moment. And at the end, right, when they're carrying Maximus's body out of the Colosseum, everyone is crowding around him and moving with him, and then the lone body of the emperor is left behind. And the reason that's so poignant is because he has spent this whole movie seeking other people's approval and love. He didn't get love from his father. He didn't feel that love from his father. He wanted that love desperately from his sister in a way that was distorted and perverted. He wanted the love of the people. But because he was so obsessed with getting that love from others in a very selfish way, he led to his own demise. And it's really tragic. It's really heartbreaking. It's really poetic. And so I would say that his whole arc culminating in that moment in the Colosseum is the holy moment for me.
Commodus' storyline is probably my favorite part of the whole movie. And I think I definitely get why that's the holy moment, because it reflects this humanity of the idea of like, we're all humans that not only want, but need to be loved. And we touched about this a little bit in The Grave of the Fireflies. If you guys want to go back and watch that episode, we talked a lot about like losing the idea of losing your innocence because you don't have support and love. And in this film, I wouldn't say Commodus really lost his innocence as much as he didn't have, like, he was more corrupted and twisted from inside. And I'm not trying to give him like sympathy in the sense of like, oh, if his father just hugged him, he wouldn't have been a weird incestual dictator. But I do think, you know, at some point you become a man or a woman and you have to make the decision of, I'm an adult. I make choices. It doesn't matter the trauma, my past, the abuse, yada, yada, yada. I now have to make the correct choices. And sometimes, you know, that's really hard and you need a support system to get through it. But still, you can't blame everything on your issues. So I definitely think it's a relatable thing, seeing this man that desperately just wanted to be loved, but through those actions really corrupted him and drove everyone away. For me, the holy moment was I'm so this movie that I chose this movie because, like I said, I wanted it to be a movie I could not have seen but enjoy, and it was exactly what I wanted it to be. A little bit of backstory for me: my favorite types of movies, usually, I like a bunch of movies, but generally, I like movies that are pretty action packed but do not put action ahead of the story. Because very often you will get movies that put action at the forefront. They put the entertainment at the forefront and they put the story in the background. I really love like The Matrix, Watchmen, and this movie. I think really put the story first, and the action will help carry the current of the story. It is not so much like, we need a cool action scene and then we'll get back to the story. In my opinion, I think I'm one of the very few humans that I know that I don't actually like John Wick. I have not seen all of them, so I'll say this a caveat. I'm sure it's a trilogy, so I'm sure the story gets better as it goes on. But I just like the first one it really was very simple. It was good man, bad man. We kill good man's dog who's related to his wife who's sad. Now good man wants to kill bad man, and that's like the whole level of everything. And then just a bunch of badass scenes of him killing people take place, and then we get like the good, oh, he finally killed the bad guy, and it feels good. But I feel like it is playing to the lowest level of a revenge story that's possible. It sets up the lowest expectations and the lowest concepts and subtext as far as like, There's a good dude, bad things happen to him. There's a bad guy, we have to kill him. And I just think, in my opinion, like Taken, it gives you that immediate dopamine. It gives you that, oh, I'm scrolling through TikTok. Oh, I just ate a chocolate cake. It just gives you that immediate dopamine because us as humans want to see justice enacted. I hope, as most humans, this is like a core value and something we're kind of born with. We want to see justice happen. But if you just stop there, it's just not enough to be compelling to me. Okay, Liam Neeson's daughter was kidnapped by human traffickers. That is horrible. We want to see the human traffickers dead. That is the whole story, though. He goes from room to building to house to country to kill people, and then nothing else happens. So I'm saying that long thought to say Gladiator has incredible action, but they never sacrificed the story for the action. It was the opposite. Every action scene, in my opinion, developed this character, this deep character. My favorite scene in the whole movie was the scene where they're first in the Roman Colosseum, where they're fighting the pieces on the warriors on horses. That scene was so cool, and it wasn't just a badass scene to be a badass scene. It was this moment to show that Maximus had something else to live for. You know, his wife and children were brutally murdered. He didn't really, up until that moment, it was just a revenge story. Up until that moment, his heart was hardened, and he wanted to kill Commodus. We've seen it before, but in that scene, his heart shifted, in my opinion, and he realized that he had people kind of looking after him. And it wasn't just his fellow slaves and gladiators. He realized what Marcus Aurelius said at the very beginning: Rome is going to fall unless someone with true virtue can take over. And he realized, even though begrudgingly, he kind of had to step into that role. And so that fight scene was not a fight scene for entertainment. It was a fight scene that was needed for Maximus to grow as a character. So, simply put, my holy moment is the fact that they did not sacrifice action and entertainment for the sake of story, but in fact, they did what a better filmmaker would do, and they made the entertainment integral to the story of our main character. So that is my holy moment. And then Vega, what about you? I'm interested because Jeffrey and I walked away really liking this movie, and I know you don't hate it. You weren't like, this was a bad movie, but it wasn't up your alley. So I'm curious, what were you able to take away that you're like, hey, even though not my cup of tea, I still like this honey in it.
Yeah, I think that's a really fun way to put it, but
it's because I'm drinking tea with honey.
Yeah, I wish I had tea. I only have 2 bottles of water next to me and then a mug.
Just a fifth of vodka next to
Go
it.
dogs. Nah, it's just water. It's all water. We're recording at 10:38 in the morning. If I was going full vodka mode, that'd be crazy.
That's what the movie did to you. Just straight vodka in the morning.
It was just that boring. No, but I guess in all seriousness, one of the moments from the movie that I think maybe I'm misinterpreting it, maybe I don't have the proper context, a whole list of things like that. I've approached it the wrong way in terms of like how I went into watching it and thinking about it. I also large asterisk. I watched this movie in 2 sittings. I watched like an hour and change in the morning, and then I watched the remainder of the film sometime later in that same afternoon. So like maybe it would have been a little bit like it hit a little bit harder, but I watched it all one sitting. That being said, I think a part of the movie that kind of very much sat with me in a just this one part highlighted is such a like tragically I don't know if beautiful is the word, but just that might be just the word I'm going to use, like a beautifully tragic thing that happens within the film is seeing I guess like a level of the kind of the relationship between I believe like Marcus Aurelius and Commodus, and it's I think climax in when Commodus offs Aurelius in the tent, and that I think to some extent and into what I saw in the movie, like I believe Aurelius loved Commodus. I don't know. I like the character of Marcus Aurelius in this movie, but even in I guess loving your son, that doesn't necessarily redeem them from that. Whether it was the way you raised them or whether it was the context and existence that they lived in, that there still may be something wrong with them, or like whether it be like however emotionally whatever they are, or just that like they may be so compelled with some level of, I guess, desire or power of jealousy or whatever it was. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure how to approach it. I've been trying to not on, because I didn't, as Nathaniel like hinted at earlier, I didn't quite like dig my like teeth into the movie in the same way that perhaps Jeffrey and Nathaniel did, but I still tried to find some level of something to like resonate with, and I think for me it might just be that tragic climax of that relationship, and in Marcus Aurelius' death.
I mean, I love that scene. I think I'm happy you brought it up because I feel like it had two of the best performances, and not only performances, but I think it highlights Jeffrey's holy moment of pretty much Commodus's character of seeking out love in the most unhealthy way. But I loved when he was in that tent and his father, Marcus Aurelius, just revealed, hey, you're not going to become the next emperor. I'm going to give it to Maximus. And Commodus basically pleads with them, like, why won't you love me? I have done everything in my power to get you to love me. And the delivery of when he says, I would burn the world for you. And then when his father drops to his knees and says, your faults are not of your own, but your faults of a failed son are not of your own, but of a failed father. I feel like those two vastly, like on different sides of the paradigms, really highlight this truth about their relationship. As far as like, I think they're both kind of in an unhealthy state, but Commodus saying like, I would have sacrificed everything for your love. I think maybe isn't a healthy way of looking at relationships, but I think he went to the far side of the spectrum, and Marcus Aurelius being like, hey, I have failed you as a father. This is my own fault. They just both seem like they're coming at the conversation from two different paradigms of like hurt. And you could see the undertones of truth and goodness. Commodus genuinely, like in that statement of, I would burn the world for you. Ultimately, it's just saying, I wanted to be loved by you. And I feel like Marcus Aurelius saying like, hey, your sins are the sins of the father. All your failures are the failures of the father. Are him agreeing that like, hey, this is not like I wanted to love you and I loved you poorly and I loved you poorly too late. So it was just a really tragic scene of them both coming out like these extreme emotions, just kind of too late.
Yeah, because, Marcus Aurelius is such a wise figure at the beginning of the film, but we have to understand that he is at the end of his character arc. And even now he's grappling with a legacy fraught with war and tyranny, right? He's ruled for, over 23 years, but only 4 of those years have been peaceful. And so he is at a point where he is mature, and he is what we might say he's good, right? He's a good person now. But given the relationship that exists, that probably wasn't always the case. And I think that there probably is truth to what he says, that, I didn't love you well. I hold some responsibility for the way that you are now. That isn't to completely take away responsibility from Commodus. He's fully responsible for all of the heinous things that he does. But it's really interesting witnessing the end of a relationship and the end of Marcus Aurelius' arc that we, as an audience, haven't been privy to because it's not his story.
That's a good thought. I'm sure it happens, but I can't bring a ton to mind where you do at the beginning of the movie have the death of a character. Obviously that happens all the time, but you have a death of a character that has clearly already gone through his arc, and we don't get to see all of it, but we get to see that his arc affected now one of our main characters. And I really like that. I really like that they didn't have to give us a whole backstory on Marcus Aurelius and how maybe when he was younger, he was unjust, or he was trying to be a just king, so he neglected his children. I appreciated that they kind of left his whole character up for the audience to kind of piece together through the rest of the movie and how Rome and the other characters developed. I think another good sign of a storyteller is fighting the urge to say and show everything, and rather leaving it up. Even sometimes, like, not only leaving it up for the audience to piece together, but sometimes being like, there is no way you can piece this together because I've not given you the information to piece it together. I think sometimes is also a better thing to do as a director. Obviously, some things in the story need to be clear. I'm not saying, that was a super ambiguous ending. I have no idea what happened. That's not good. But the feeling of a director to make sure everything is crystal clear, I think, is actually a downfall of a lot of movies. I would be, and I'm sure we kind of answered it talking about Our Holy Moment, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this question specifically connected to this movie. It being such one of the last kind of true epics in this day and age, what was your guys' favorite performance and favorite scene of the movie? Considering, we're jumping around to all these locations with this amazing cast and these great visuals, I feel like it's a movie that you really have to have a favorite scene and a favorite performance. So, what about you, Vega? What was yours?
Yeah, I think I believe I've touched on both of these already, but I think my favorite performance may be Russell Crowe's performance as he goes back to his home and then sees his wife and child crucified, and like whatever within him pulled that off, or like his performance off there. I thought it was good. I don't know if I have something super deep or critical to say about it. I thought it was well done. It's like I guess like if it's a certain bite of a burger that kind of like just sits with you. That was one. It was setting, sure, but like did it like work? Is that one of the things that will be memorable for me? I think so. Yeah, as performances go, that, and as far as the scene goes, ties it back right back into what I believe my holy moment might be: the death of Marcus Aurelius in the tent.
Yeah, great shit scene. What about you, Jeffrey? What was your favorite specific, just like performance, and not like a whole character performance, but like a one moment performance and specific scene?
Well, I've already mentioned my favorite shot, which is the one of the crowd leaving Commodus behind in the Colosseum. But man, my favorite performance. All right, this is a scene that I thought was really well executed because it was so fraught with tension. And it's after Commodus has found out that Lucilla has betrayed him. And I don't know if this is my favorite moment, but I just want to talk about it because I haven't talked about it yet. He summons her to like the main room, like a dining room of sorts. And he's telling a story to Lucius, her son. And there is so much tension in the air because he is, as has been demonstrated in the film, unhinged. And he could snap at any moment. He could do anything. But he's holding Lucius so tight, right? And so close. And he's telling a story about another famous betrayal in Roman history and the lengths at which that emperor was willing to go to punish the betrayer. And I don't know, I was on the edge of my seat. I did not know what he would do, if he would kill Lucius in that moment or if the scene would resolve in some other way. And it did resolve in some other way, but I heaved a great sigh of relief afterwards. A lot of subtext.
Definitely one of those interesting scenes where the subtext is, I think often in movies, subtext is almost supposed to be this thing that's such an undercurrent that's just kind of felt. It's almost like a feeling. And then sometimes subtext can be so in your face that it's bad. Like it's almost just text at that point. But this scene, and I thought about it while watching it, this scene is interesting. This scene, and I think it did it well, but this scene did subtext. The scene did subtext for the characters, not for the audience. Like, and maybe for a little bit of definition at home, because we don't want to take for granted that maybe you went to film school and know what subtext means. Don't know if you guys do know, but basically, subtext is the context that is not being said in the scene, but is actually going on. So while I talk to Vega and I might be talking to him about, hey, how was your week? There might be an undercurrent of where are you actually trying to guide the conversation. It doesn't always have to be duplicitous or malicious, but often there is something within our human hearts that is not always said outright, and it kind of does guide conversation. And that's what subtext is. And in this scene, often I feel like there's the subtext was very obvious. It was Commodus basically saying, hey, if you do not do what I want to do, I will kill your child. But he had to say it in a way that the child didn't know. So he said it almost cryptic, using this story as a reflection of this is what I'm going to do if you do not tell me what is happening tonight with Maximus. But it's just interesting because I feel like most subtext you see is much more subtle than that. And it isn't like a character directly trying to be like, hey, I'm trying to tell you this information. So I would almost argue that it wasn't subtext. And I don't know if you'd agree or disagree. Again, I think the scene was done well, but it was more of a character trying to say something cryptically. It wasn't a character trying to get to a point, because I think also subtext often the character that is saying the thing doesn't even realize that that is where they're going. That's what makes it subtext. I feel like it's so subtle to both of the actors in the room, or both of the characters in the room, that you don't know what is trying to be said. But I feel like there was no question with what Commodus was trying to say. He was trying to say, hey, if you do not do this, I will kill your son, but in a cryptic way. What are your thoughts with that, Jeffrey?
Well, it's an interesting thing. I think that you can have subtext that's obvious to all parties. A good example of this is at the end of The Apartment. Spoilers for The Apartment. When the leading lady comes into Jack Lemmon's apartment, right? And she starts laying out a deck of cards, and there's this brief back and forth. And then he tells her, I love you deeply, right? I am so immensely in love with you. I can't even express it. And then she smiles at him, and she says, shut up and deal, right? And she's not explicitly saying, I love you back, but the subtext of that is like she's smiling, the look in her eye, her tone of voice. When she says, shut up and deal, she's saying, I love you back, you idiot,
Yeah. And I agree. And I think the big difference here is her saying, shut up and deal, I don't think consciously is to her saying, I love you. I think that's the big difference. It's a conscious versus unconscious. I think it's her way of showing affection, but I don't think she's sitting there, okay, if I say, shut up, I love you, it will be a funny way to deflect. And because I don't really want to say I love you, because that's too much commitment or too much whatever. But if I say shut up and deal, he'll get that it's like an affectionate thing that leads to kind of I love you. She's not thinking that. I think she's saying shut up and deal because that is what her character in that moment would have said, but it reflects the deeper meaning in her heart of I love you. While Commodus really is not, there is no reflection, there is no lens in which it's being perverted. He is trying to say one for one, I'm just trying to say something cryptically. So that's why I don't think, again, it's a great scene, but I don't think necessarily what he was saying is a great example of well done subtext, because to me, it is more just a character trying to say something cryptically. I'm really just like splitting hairs, but I the only reason I want to bring it up because I specifically watched that scene and was like, is this subtext? I don't think this is subtext. So when you brought it up, I was like, oh, I want to see what your guys' thoughts are. Do you have any opinion on that, Vega?
To our audio listeners, I hit him with a thumbs down.
Which means I gotta kill Jeffrey. Where's the big stone?
Contextually speaking, actually, historically, the thumbs down was meant to, I believe this is right. I think historically the thumbs down was meant to be swords down. But director Ridley Scott was like, that's too confusing. But everyone now understands that as like, nah. So we're going to put it as no.
It's also funny because there's a similar thing in the Colosseum that apparently gladiators, like when you go to like a race car event, and like the race cars have like Sprite and Pepsi and Tide, like, advertisements. Apparently gladiators would do the same, and they would be branded with different types of like marketing. But Ridley Scott thought it was a little much.
Oh yeah, I think they like was the olive oil thing.
Yeah. And so they decided not to do that. It was one of those weird things, like it's historically, they decide like, hey, this is historically accurate, but no one is going to believe this is historically accurate. So they're going to then think we're doing a weird product placement within our movie. So they decided not to do it. I remember reading up on that, which I thought was interesting.
Another moment that I thought was probably anachronistic, but maybe I'm just incorrect, but I'm pretty sure I'm not, is when they lead Lucilla to Maximus's cell and they're like, high-ranking ladies will pay a lot of money to be pleasured by a gladiator. Y'all have to understand how closely guarded Roman men held onto their Roman women, right? Kept under lock and key. And infidelity was something that a Roman man could engage in freely, as long as he's not, sleeping with another Roman citizen's wife, right? But if a wife was caught cheating on her husband, that could be the death penalty, and often was the death penalty. And so that's just an interesting thing that I thought of when that scene came up.
Sounds like you know a lot about this Roman culture, Jeffrey. Is any part of you, wishing that's the culture you lived in?
All right, for context, folks, people like to joke that I'm a misogynist, but the joke is that I'm not a misogynist. So,
No, Jeffrey is a good person. Just making sure. No, speaking of little funny facts about the movie that maybe you guys picked up on, I have we're gonna do a little bit of a trivia to end out the episode before we give our official rankings and draw next week movies out of the hat. But I was watching the movie and just a few things stuck out to me, and I was like, ooh, I'm gonna see if Jeffrey and Vega also picked up on it. So today, guys, I have 5 questions for you. So that way we don't have to do a tiebreaker. You must wait until I read the entire question, and then you can answer. There's no buzzing in, just blurt it out. Some of them are like a long form answer. Some of them are multiple choice. So whoever wins this will have my loving devotion. And next time I see you, I will give you a firm handshake. So a lot is on the line here. You guys ready for the first official, the Holy Moment Podcast trivia section?
I'm ready.
Very good. Let's begin. All right. The first question is, why does Maximus rub dirt on his hands before each battle?
I am guessing it has to do with giving him a better grip on the weapon so that it doesn't slip away from blood or sweat.
Okay. And what about you, Vega?
Yeah, that's pretty much the only other guess I got. I remember having to do a similar thing with chalk whenever I used to do gymnastics when I was like 10.
I feel like what you're trying to say is when you would grab stones and beat people with them. I really needed that chalk.
Yeah, bringing it all in full circle. I think the rock was the dirt. I just needed to rub my hand on the rock.
Oh, okay. That's where the connection comes from. Okay, let me rephrase this question. What subtext, bringing it all back, what subtext is there in Maximus rubbing dirt on his hands before each battle?
He is a man of the earth. He has worked the land. He is of the people, for the people, whereas the emperor perhaps wouldn't get his hands dirty. That's one possible interpretation. But it might also have some religious significance. I remember seeing him, picking up some dirt, brushing it over his hands, and then making sort of a prayer sign.
Okay. What about you, Vega?
I got nothing.
You got 0. Well, you both are technically correct with the first answer, but it wasn't the answer I was looking for. It is widely believed that he rubs dirt on his hand before each battle for the idea of better grip. But the subtext, I'm going to give the point to Jeffrey because it's close to what Jeffrey said. But the ultimate answer is we open with him, maybe not the first thing we see, but very early on we see him picking up the dirt, smelling it, rubbing his hands. And very soon after he does that, one of his officers kind of comments that he's a farmer. And he's like, I can't imagine you as a farmer. And the whole movie, Maximus just wanted to go home to his wife and son and be a farmer. So it's his character is one that wants to go home. And the symbolism / subtext there is he's yearning for the farm. He wants to go home to the dirt. But it's the idea of he wants to go home and be with his family, be with his son, and be with the place that is most feels like home to him. But that's good for that's a good one, Jeffrey. I think the idea of like he's willing to get his hands dirty for the people is an interesting idea. I didn't know, but we'll give that point to Jeffrey. This is a multiple choice one. What line of in the movie? A lot of the dialogue. Some of the dialogue was ad-libbed. Some of the famous scenes of dialogue was just made up on the cuff by the actor. So I have 3 options, and you have to tell me which one was just ad-libbed by the actor. The first one is the super famous line by Maximus / Russell Crowe, "Are you not entertained?" When he's first in the Colosseum, not the Rome Colosseum, but the other one, and he kills somebody, throws the sword at Proximo, and he's like, "Are you not entertained?" The second one is by Commodus, and it is after he has thwarted the plans of Maximus from escaping, and it's the last hour. Everything seems to go to crap. He seems like he has control over Rome once again, and it's the next morning, and he's at breakfast, I think, with his sister wife, Lucilia, and he basically goes up to her and says, "Hey, you're going to give me an heir. You're going to love me. If you ever look at me wrong, I'm going to kill your son. If you try to run away, I will kill your son. And if you try and kill yourself, I will kill your son." And then it kind of climaxes with him yelling, "Am I not grateful?" Because he's basically saying like, but you're going to be an empress, or you're going to be like, you're going to be an empress. You're going to be here with me. You're going to have everything you could ever desire. And I'm going to love you. And then he yells at her, "Am I not grateful?" And last but not least is Proximus. He says the line quite a few times to Shadow and Dust. So I'm not saying every single line, but specifically the line before he is stabbed behind by all the Roman soldiers, he says to Shadows and Dust. Which of those 3 lines was ad-libbed?
I want to say the "Are you not entertained?" line, because that one is the most unnecessary of the lines listed, in my opinion. Because of Shadow and Dust, it lends a sense of finality to the scene, to the character that I feel was necessary, right? If they just come in and killed him, it wouldn't have had the same impact. It feels very intentional, and it's a callback to something like prior in the script. Now, the one of the emperor saying, "Am I not grateful or am I not merciful?" I could see that being an on-the-fly like ad lib based on the previous text, but also I could see it being in the script as a continuation, of the previous like statements. It fits. I could see someone intentionally writing that out.
That's a good guess. And also, I'm so sorry. I wrote in my notes, "Am I not grateful?" You are correct, Jeffrey. The quote is, "Am I not merciful?" So that communist says. Sorry. Okay, Vega, what's your pick?
Bum 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 bum. Yeah. Whatever show that's from, please don't copyright us to death.
You've been sent a cease and desist. It's in the mail.
Pretty much, yeah. No, but I might just have to also go with Jeffrey on that one.
Okay. Well, you both are wrong. And it's funny, Jeffrey, your train of thought was identical to my girlfriend's because I asked her these questions last night to see if they're any good. And everything you said, she was like, she guessed, "Are you not entertained?" because it felt the least in line with Maximus's character being very reserved. She thought Shadows and Dust was a very, like, it seemed like it's full circle to what his character said. It makes sense to be there. And then Am I Not Merciful could be ad-libbed, but it also makes sense in the context of the scene. But it is Joaquin Phoenix's Am I Not Merciful. He ad-libbed that, and the actress was not prepared for it. And so her kind of breaking down crying was a pretty real reaction. And also, I think it makes sense in the context of the actor, Joaquin Phoenix. He is a very method actor in the moment. If anyone's going to do a very heated ad-libbed line, I feel like out of the actors, it would be him. Fun fact, many times throughout the movie, Joaquin Phoenix will come up to Russell Crowe and be like they're about to do a scene where they're in conflict. He's like, hey, slap me so I can go in with some level of conflict. And Russell Crowe would reply with, "Why don't you try acting, you maggot?" Which Joaquin Phoenix would then say, yeah, let's roll. That's enough for me to work with. That insult. So
see, I like that approach far better than Dustin Hoffman's in Kramer versus Kramer, where instead of asking people to slap him, he would just straight up slap Meryl Streep.
Yeah, without asking or permission. Yeah, which is wild. So Joaquin
Not
Phoenix
good.
a little better. Awesome. Okay, well, third question. What are the two food items that Maximus says he grew on his farm? He specifically said, on like the east side of my farm, I grow this, and on like the north side of my farm, I grow this. What were the two?
Pears and grapes.
Okay, Vega.
Yeah, cheeseburger and fries. He grew on one side of the farm. He grew cheeseburger. On the other, he grew fry.
I don't want to. We have an upset crowd. It's grapes and olives. He does mention pears, but it's in a different context. So it's grapes and olives. Next question. I think this one's an easier one. What battle reenactment does Maximus and his like slave friends take place in the first fight in the Colosseum, specifically with all the chariots running around? Like, what was that reenactment of?
Carthage and Scythia?
Yep, that is correct. And then I think Jeffrey wins. So this last one's more just a fun fact because there's no way you guys can know this, but I wanted to see if you could get it. So I was doing some reading up on the real Commodus because he is a real person. Obviously, his story is not one for one, but apparently he was actually more crazy and insane in real life than they even depicted him in the movie. He kind of thought he was like Hercules. He dressed as Hercules. He thought he was a true god, which is not too far from Roman emperors. But
LARPing.
He LARPed as Hercules, yes. It is said, I don't know if this is true, obviously, but it is said that at one time, because he also did fight in the Colosseum, that at one time he fought at once 5 of these animals and killed all of them. Was it 5 giraffes, 5 hippos, or 5 lions?
Lions. I have to assume lions. It'd be really fun if it was like giraffes, though.
Vega, what do you think he killed 5 of?
I think giraffes.
Giraffes would be very funny. It's hippos. Apparently, to history, this man killed 5 hippos at once.
That's crazy.
That is insane. Almost more impressive than the lions. Probably not, but like, how do you even kill a hippo?
I think this proves the existence of time machines. He had a gun.
No, he had 3 rocks.
No, I am personally more impressed that they are hippos.
Oh my God! Wait! I knew this. Wait, this is. Sorry to completely cut you off, Jeffrey. I think I knew that it was hippos because that was something that Ridley was something that he I think wanted, but because we're where I guess either laws or cost or like slash CGI, which just wasn't there yet, or like that would have cost way too much. He couldn't do it. I do actually remember hearing about that.
It's way easier to get real tigers on set than real hippos. It's a shame. They have SAG for tigers, unions, but there's no union for the hippos yet. We need to represent the hippos.
I think that's also why they use like whatever dog they ended up using as opposed to just a wolf, because like wherever they filmed had really strict laws about no rabies kind of thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well,
So
that
they can
makes
just put
sense.
like a wild wolf.
Okay.
I'm just thinking of like an animal union and tigers applying for a union membership and paying union dues.
Does the union work similarly to like how like you get in a certain like the certain ways where like it's like say you have a line, do they need lines? Is it need to roar or need to like bark kind of thing?
You have to bark so many times. What noises do hippos make? What do they have to do to get into the union? That's why there's no union for hippos yet.
That's an injustice. That's a travesty.
I know.
They need to be paid a livable wage.
They need at least 3 watermelons per scene. Well, hey, but congratulations, Jeffrey. Next time I see you, I owe you a handshake. You got 3 out of 5. Vega successfully, I think, got 0 out of 5. So congratulations. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. I liked this movie a lot. I thought it did a good job. Now, moving into the rankings for this film. Vega, just really quick in your own brief words, what is our ranking system?
All right. Beep, 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 beep. Ding, 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 ding. There's the name of the podcast, The Holy Moment. That is, technically speaking, the first on the list. Going down, we have Creato Adamus, which I believe is the Latin name of the creation of Adam. So, like, there's the little finger from Adam and there's a little finger from God, but they ain't touching. But it's really, really, really close. You guys get no explanation. Drunken Monk, that exists. That's 3. 4, Prudish Grandma. Going a little bit further down, Forbidden Fruit. Y'all ever heard of the Garden of Eden? I don't think I have. 6, if you've ever lived down a little bit further south or heard anything about Southern Baptist, we got at 6, Fire and Brimstone. And 7, good old-fashioned Anathema. Accursed.
And we'll explain these rankings in more detail as we give them to movies.
Yep. So you have to stick around, follow us on future episodes, and as we talk, we give a movie anathema. We'll describe what that is. But yeah, starting with you, Vega, since you just so beautifully gave the list, where does Gladiator fall on that list and why?
I think this is the perfect example. I think this is a perfect example of as to this is not a normal metric. At least I don't take it as such. Like a normal metric would be like a 1 through 5, and like maybe that might be easier to come up with, or like to just generally understand. Like, oh, he gave it a 1. He doesn't like it. I think I would give this one. Yeah, I believe I would give Gladiator, the original, Creato Adamus. I think there was so many things that it did objectively well. The cinematography looked beautiful, even in some moments that they had to like compromise and like film it a different way. It still is striking. The performance is great. So much of the environment and the world that they have created, I think, it really does work. It just it's almost like a movie that's like, I believe I may have like heard this expressed towards other movies or just other works of art or whatever, but it's almost like, for me, it's like almost so like good in so many aspects that it's like it's not bad. It just like doesn't work for me, I don't believe.
That's crazy. And something that I love about this ranking system is I clearly like this movie more than Vega. I'm straight about to give it a lower ranking on our ranking system than Vega, which is hilarious. Because again, it's not, if this was a 1 through 10, I probably would give it like a 7.5 or an 8. And I'm sure Vega would have been a little lower. But since we're not ranking on a metric system and we're ranking on the idea of like, it's all ranked on the idea of like, what is a holy movie in your eyes? What are movies trying to do that make it a holy movie? And for Vega, maybe he's like, hey, I don't get the message and the theme, but I do see that they're striving for this idea. So for me, I'm giving it the ranking of the Drunken Monk and a little bit more context of the Drunken Monk, who is more of an iconic holy symbol? Monks and nuns. You know, they're devoting their whole lives to their religion. And the idea is you have this person who is striving for holiness. You know, as a human, it's the closest they could. They're trying to be as holy as possible. But then maybe the monk, you know, went out to the bar with the homies, drank a little too much mead, and got a little sloshed. You know, he heard that ukulele playing in the background. Not the ukulele, the lute. He heard the lute playing in the background, and oh boy, he needed some mead. So he is now drunk. So the idea of like he is striving for this ideal holiness, but now he's going off the beaten path a little bit. So for me, Gladiator is such a good movie. It's doing everything right, in my opinion. It's doing the fighting right. It's doing the writing and the action and the characters right. But to me, it doesn't quite strike the idea of holy that I look for in my movies to put it on this specific type of ranking list. Again, different type of ranking list, it'd be in a different place. But for this ranking list, it just does everything super well. But the things it does well, I feel like do not blow me out of the water. But I really do love that what it does to the best of its degree. But even that's not quite enough for it to be Creator Adamus or the Holy Moment, because think what it's doing is pretty standard, but it's doing it phenomenally. So it's that monk who's doing everything perfectly, but got a little drunk. So that's my rating.
This is interesting because we each have given this movie a different ranking.
What are you going to give it?
I am giving it the Prudish Grandma, but on the higher end of Prudish Grandma. And here's my reasoning. I reserve the Drunken Monk for the risk takers, right? Whereas this movie, it did everything right. I don't think it pushed the envelope, right? It's like a prudish grandma. They go to church, they pray, they read their Bible, and they kind of stick to that. Sometimes to the film's detriment, right? The studio wanted romance, and so they put romance in it. And so I really enjoyed this film. And I probably enjoyed this film more than I would enjoy some Drunken Monk films. But that's where I'm placing it, and that's my reasoning.
All right. Wow. I was not expecting us to have such a differing opinion, and the fact that Vega came in higher is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, hey, that's awesome, guys. Well,
it's a fun development.
Yeah, for sure. Well, before we get out of here, guys, just want to say again, what we're trying to do with the Holy Moment podcast is create a community of people who love watching movies and love talking about them. They love talking about the funny things, and they love talking about the serious things. So at the end of every episode, we are going to pull a movie out of a hat. We have 5 categories. And we each put a movie for each category. So that's 15 movies. This was the first movie of the category. So now there's 14 left. And depending on whose movie is drawn, if it's one of Jeffrey's, mine, or Vega's, that person will be hosting next week. So Jeffrey is going to pull the movie out of the hat. He has a physical hat, and he's going to tell us who is hosting and what movie. But before Jeffrey does that, I want to really quick just tell what categories we have really fast. So the categories we have is dope movie poster. Explanatory, has to be a cool movie poster. The second category is 3 degrees away from. You know, like the Kevin Bacon theory, everyone's 3 degrees away from Kevin Bacon. Well, working in the film industry, we've met a few people. So who are we 3 degrees away from? Did I work on a film set with a grip? Who knew this person? Who knew the director? You know, Christopher Nolan. Wild card, Gladiator is my wild card. It is, again, just any movie that you want. Could be you've seen it, could be you haven't seen it. Black and white, a movie that's in black and white. And last but not least, it's a movie made by a criminal. So someone who was kind of in the making of the movie, a director, a producer, an actor, a DP, and they went to jail for some reason for criminal intent. So with that being said, Jeffrey, do us the honors and you pull that movie out of the hat.
All right. Drum roll, please.
Drum, 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 drum,
Drumming.
All right. Let's see what this one is. Looks like the next movie is Father Stew, which I believe is Christopher Vega's pick.
Yeah, it's one of the few comedies on our in the hat, so that's exciting.
That's funny that it's labeled as a comedy. I don't know if it's
Isn't it a comedy?
I think you're just making stuff up. I think my co-host is just talking.
I swear it has comedy at it. Are you there's no comedy in that movie. Like
there is some level of comedy, but it's like comedy in the level of I would put in a drama. I wouldn't put it in a dramedy. I would put it in a drama with some aspects of comedy.
Oh, well then your host today is just a fool, a buffoon. I guess I knew very little about it other than vaguely seeing the trailer, and it felt very dramedy to me. Well, that's exciting. Well, cool. So tune in next Monday, October 21st, when we review Father Stu, and Christopher Vega will be our host. Now, before we leave, guys, Jeffrey, tell all the wonderful people at home where they can find us and how they can interact with us.
So, you can find us at Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, X, Letterboxd, and Reddit. Please engage with us. We want y'all to watch these movies, and we want your thoughts. If you have a hill you want to die on, that's basically another way of saying just a really strong opinion about this movie or the next. Let us know. We might even talk about it.
We look forward to engaging with you guys next week. And I'm so sorry, but I have to do this considering the movie. Are you not entertained? Until next week, guys, love all of you.